Welcome to All Worn Out. I'm your host, Warren Meredith. On the show today, it's young one, James Shaheen. But the force is strong with him, and he ain't no Boy Scout. Wait a minute. Actually, he might be. Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Worn Out. It's a podcast about music and whatever our guest is passionate about and whatever you're passionate about. So let me know in the comments or somewhere what you want to talk about, because that's what I'm down for. So on the show today, we have the very cool, young, up-and-coming musician, James Shaheen of the band. I was going to say 5+None, but that's the old band, now the Space Between. And in the Space Between, you are an original member, correct?
That's correct.
A founding member?
That's true.
Very cool. And there's 3 of you, right?
There is 3 kind of original members.
And what do you play?
I play the guitar. That's what I do in the band.
Do you songwrite?
I do songwrite.
Take me back in time. Where were you born?
I was born in Ottawa, so I'm a Ottawa boy.
Yeah.
And I started playing music pretty young. I'm tied for youngest out of 4 siblings. So I have some older siblings. And music was kind of a pretty present thing for us. My dad's a bit of an audiophile and got exposed to lots of different music. And then my 2 older siblings had started playing musical instruments when I was pretty young. My older brother played the accordion, which is kind of an unusual one to sort of pick up. And then my sister was playing piano and violin.
You guys in like a band together?
I think we only did that like once. We did like a week band camp kind of thing. Like most people do like a band camp and you like meet a bunch of kids you don't know and you make a band. Okay, well, we did it like with our family because we had like enough people to, make up a whole band.
Awesome.
But no, I got into it pretty young. I started playing violin when I was like 5. And did that for a couple of years, and then sort of transitioned to bass, and then guitar, and then drums and sax and that kind of stuff. But
wow,
landed my way most prominently with guitar.
Wow, I mean that's very Paul McCartney-esque the way you describe that, having the fatherly influence, liking all the different music, getting you to learn all the different instruments, or maybe that was just your own doing. Because obviously you love making music and you love the instrumentation and all of that part of it. So you're a graduate of the Carleton music program, is that correct?
I have not graduated yet, so I have another year left.
Well, what will they make you do in that final year?
Final year, actually, I have a lot of non-music credits I have to do. So I got a bunch of like electives that I have to do that are not in music. But the kind of big thing that I'm hoping to do this year is it's a performance degree. So there's an option to do a grad recital in your last year. And so that's what I'm hoping to do. You basically get to spend a whole semester. I mean, really, you should be spending more than a semester working on it, but you spend a semester working on an hour-long concert that's sort of supposed to reflect what you've done over the last 4 or however many years it takes you to complete it. And so right now I'm just waiting for approval from that because it has to pass like a council of faculty or whatever. Because it is a pretty significant thing to do, but that's kind of what I'm looking forward to be able to do.
Very cool. So the program was pretty much what you thought it was going to be when you went into it, or did it surprise you?
Yes and yes. Like it was pretty much what I expected in the sense that Carleton really has the only sort of it's the only school that really offers anything other than like classical or jazz sort of studies, especially with guitar. But to get anything kind of equivalent, I would really have to go to the other side of the border and go to something like in New York State or Berkeley or something like that, to be able to work on what it is that I want to do. Like I don't want to just play jazz or classical, obviously important and good to learn about, but it's not really what I'm passionate about. So to be able to do what I wanted to do, I chose Carleton because it was close, and also the program is quite diverse, which is pretty neat. So in that sense, it's what I expected. There's definitely lots of things, you know, that you don't necessarily expect in terms of university coming into it. But I think it was kind of what I was sort of expecting from a program like this. Yeah, it's a pretty neat program.
So when did you decide, out of all these instruments, when did you decide, like, I'm going to be a guitarist and I'm going to be in a band and I'm going to write music with my guitar?
I got a guitar. I bought a guitar from my then bass teacher, who was also my brother's drum teacher, when I was 8 or 9. And I think it was probably then.
8 or 9. Okay, so what music were you listening to then?
At the time,
Yeah.
I think right around then is sort of when I started getting really into Kiss. That was kind of the only band I ever really got like super obsessed with. I feel like otherwise I kind of like, you know, I like a band for a while and then I sort of add it to my repertoire and find a new band. But that was a band for a good couple years that was kind of my absolute favorite. And I kind of knew everything about the band and, you know, knew the whole discography and all the facts, and really that was kind of my favorite thing at the time. And so that was kind of the big one for me, but there was a couple other things sort of equivalent to that in the kind of classic rock realm that I was sort of exploring.
I mean, Kiss has a lot of fantastic lessons for any band to learn from. Like they really taught people how to market. They taught people like how to employ proper wear on stage to market, et cetera, and basically really show bands how to make money. I mean, back then and today, the things they did still work. You know, Slipknot and all the bands that came later who put on a fantastic stage show. I mean, I know that one of those inspirational pieces was Kiss. So, I mean, I think that's a very good inspirational piece. And also, I like Kiss because they are simple hook-based. Like, it's like, get into that chorus and give it and hope that people love it and commit to it. And that's fun. You know, I find a lot of people in writing music, especially in today's world, sometimes it's a little bit pretentious. And sometimes we don't want to get to that chorus and just let people have the fun. And Kiss always... they give in. They let you party, you know, rock and roll every day and all night or whatever it is, you know, on repeat. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they were like the whole package, like you said it. Like they had the marketing down, they had the music down. They really kind of figured it out. And were really the first ones to, well, I guess they weren't necessarily the first ones to do what they did, but they were the first ones to take it to that level, you know, because they were sort of jumping on the back of, you know, like Stooges and Alice Cooper and all that kind of thing. But then they took it, you know, to their larger than life sort of level, obviously. And, yeah, kind of trailblazers in that sense. And I agree, like musically, they really sort of figured out how to kind of mass produce in a way. They're really kind of like their early stuff. It's interesting because they went through a whole, you know, couple phases of music, right? They had the early stuff, which is very similar to like Beatles in that kind of sense, where it's like pop song. It's like exactly not the same, but sort of structured the same. They have those choruses and all that kind of stuff. And then they went through their whole shift in their career and made some questionable choices and questionable music, and then found some kind of niche cool stuff. And then, I mean, now they are what they are. But yeah.
Definitely, they're legendary, and for all the things we've been saying, I have a funny story about them. My friend Sundance, who will come on the podcast later, a friend of mine from my theater school days, many moons ago at Humber College in Toronto. Sundance, she paid some good money. She paid some good money to get backstage and spend some time with Kiss, and she got like a good amount of time with them. And then, you know, they did like they played some acoustic for them, and like this group of about 20 people who all, you know, get into the cool club. And so I guess Gene Simmons comes along, he's doing autographs, and he comes to Sundance, who is a real character. She's a character all on her own. So along comes Gene, and he goes, "Where do you want me to sign?" And, you know, she pulls out her boob, and, you know, so he goes like, da 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 da, signs it, and she goes, "Ah, you nipple dipped me." And he was like, "Nipple dip? what's a nipple dip? And he's like, I've never heard that before. Can I use it? And like, she's got this on her YouTube channel and stuff. Like, she literally made Gene Simmons go like, what? That's cool. Like, yeah, that's wicked. I'm going to use that. So like, when I was at Blues Fest, I had a similar situation happen. And I said, I'm okay, I'll nipple dip. But it was awkward, and I kind of had to look away. Like, it's not a common thing, you know. At least for Gene it is, but not for me. Not a common thing. So anyways, that's my story about Kiss and how cool they are. I mean, that would have happened like 4 years ago or something, like not that long ago.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're still pretty wild and having a good time. So back to you, back to the music. Let's talk about, when do you meet Maren? When do you meet the lead vocalist of this band and the last band?
That's a good question. So the actual answer is when I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4. But there's a caveat to that, in that I kind of forgot she was a person until like 2018, 19. So sorry, Maren. But our moms knew each other.
Okay.
And so like all children whose parents know each other, you like are forced to hang out with random people. And I don't know, I guess we hung out a couple times. I remember playing Lego Star Wars, the video games.
Yeah.
That's about all I remember. So we hung out a couple times, I guess, in passing. And then when I was in, end of 2018, 2019, something like that. And I saw that 5+None, which was the old band that Maren was in, was looking for a bassist. Actually, I think my mom sent it to me, and she was like, oh, you remember her? She's in a band, and they're looking for a bassist. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I don't really play bass that much, but I guess I'll, audition or whatever. Because I was kind of wanting to start playing a little bit, but it's really hard to figure out where to start, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, whatever, okay, this could be a good kind of stepping stone into, getting a little bit of gigging experience and that kind of thing. And so reached out, auditioned, ended up joining them for, I guess, the last year and a half, I guess, that they were a band. Because I joined in like 2019 or something like that, played a couple gigs. And then 2020, we kind of shut down. But kind of around that time, we were in the middle of sort of figuring out what the identity of the band was going to be anyways. But yeah, so known her for a while.
That's very cool. And I understand now what you mean about finding the identity. And I'm sure when you came in and then you realized, oh, there's some good talent here. There's something good to work with here. Maybe I want to do something other than play the bass in this band. Maybe I want to voice myself another way. And I'm sure that they were looking at you the same way and saying, oh gosh, James brings this new energy, and it's great, and it's calming, or it's energetic. It's one or the other. I find new band members or whatever. It's either like they bring this very new calming presence, or they come in and it's like, ramp it up, let's go. And sometimes it's both. But those are very special band members, I find. And, so that's what I imagine happening. And I've watched you guys. Well, I used to, keep tabs on, 5+None as well. So, I mean, it's always been interesting to watch you guys rise. And of course, Alan Cross had his ears on Maren a long time ago, and as he should. You guys are rising and doing great things and growing. Every time you write music, every time you play music, you are legitimately getting better and growing. And so don't forget that. That's one thing I think over the years I just kind of whatever. It's another day. But then when I started taking stock in it, I don't know, being grateful for it feels good. But back to the band and you guys. Who is the third member of the band?
Our third member is Tom. That's our drummer.
Okay, cool.
So we met him 2021. Yeah, it would have been summer in 2021. We had Marin and I had sort of, it ended up being that Marin and I were kind of working on this project by ourselves, and we knew we needed to try and fill out other people. And so we had gone through, we had found like a whole other half of the band, and had done rehearsals and kind of made plans with them. And then different people went different directions and, wanted to work on other things, which is totally fine. And so we were kind of back into square one, the two of us trying to find people. And so we ended up finding Tom, and we made him go into the studio like 3 weeks later.
Hey man, I think that's the way to do it. Trial by fire has always worked best for me in the past with bands, and even with our drummer. We went to the studio and we did a session drummer, and I was blown away by the session drummer. Blown away at how brilliant he was and able to adapt so quickly. And he was showing me ideas, or showing us ideas, like, oh, this song here, like, what if I mixed like this Chili Peppers beat with like this Cooper beat, or like this beat with that beat, and then he'd do it on the little pad and go, oh yeah, that's good, I like that, and then he'd go in and just nail it. So I know that we also reached out at the same time to Taylor, and then he came and did the show with us at the Rainbow, and absolutely nailed it, and made me like, he's the calming presence guy. He's one of the people who come in and calms things down, and he's so good at it. He knows his shit. He doesn't mess around, and such a positive attitude. I find in drummers, like, if you get that drummer with the positive attitude, it's so uplifting, So the three of you are now this band trio, and do you write the songs, the three of you, or do you bring a song, Marin brings a song, or is it just off the floor?
We've done it a couple ways, but typically all three of us are pretty much involved in it. Generally from like throughout the whole process. Most often it'll be that I'll come in with an idea. It won't be a song, but it'll be an idea, like a hook or a good little progression or a riff or something like that, and I'll come in with it, and we'll try and sort of flesh it out. So Tom and I will try and figure out, like, what can we do with this little section? I might come in with something that I think this could be a great chorus, or this is an intro, where do I go to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we'll sort of jam it out a little bit, and usually Marin's in the room trying to figure out, come up with ideas and that kind of thing. She has a music degree as well. She went to Carleton.
She's gonna be on the show also, folks. I please do not be upset with James for being man number 12 or 9 on the show. It's not his fault. I had a couple of ladies scheduled, but they had to reschedule, and so now But Marin will be on, so don't worry. Go ahead.
She's very like theory savvy in that sense, so she understands music theory.
Yep.
She does not understand how to communicate drums at all.
Me neither.
So when we're like working on stuff, we have a bit of like this triangular issue where Tom doesn't really have any like traditional theory knowledge,
right? But
he speaks drums.
Yep.
And Marin has traditional theory knowledge but does not understand drums.
Right.
And I have traditional theory knowledge and also kind of understand drums because I can play like a little bit of drums. And so it's like trying to decipher what everyone's saying, but also like I'm probably the least patient out of the three of us too. So I'm so like quick to be like,
yeah, I'm the least patient one probably in my band. I get you. I understand. I mean, normally that's the singer's job to be impatient and be like the diva in that, but like I understand you. I got you. When you're bringing, so for my band in the past, or yeah, I guess so. It kind of got better and cleaner cut, but like I like it when my guitarist brings me lots of riffs. Like I love, as a vocalist, I just love riffs, and I don't care if it's 4/4 all the damn time. Like, just give me some riffs and I will just, I'll start being like, ooh, yeah, or no, or combine those two, like it's so much, I have so much fun with guitar players, but I think they start to dislike me after a while of my demands. But, it's a lot of, like, guitar is, it's a pretty cool instrument. Like, were you originally attracted to guitar because, like, it is the sexiest of the band instruments? Like, it is the star of the show in many regards?
Yes, but I purposely try to avoid playing it because everyone plays it.
Right.
So that's why when I went to like out of violin and I wanted to play something a little snazzier, I went to bass because I was like, well, less people play the bass, so it's cooler if I play the bass. It wasn't for me.
Right.
For a lot of people, it is.
It
is a cool instrument.
Yeah.
But I really did want to play guitar, and so I ended up. I tried to play, stick it out on bass for like a year, and I was like, nah, I gotta get a guitar. This is what I want to be able to do.
I've dabbled in a lot of instruments. I did piano for quite a few years, and then bass and stuff in school, and guitar I've owned for a long time. But all I can ever do with the guitar is strum and do chords and minimal picking. My brain, I've tried, believe me, and I know you have to like keep going and try, and you work hard, and like I've had the lessons and you do the picking. I just never. I've got little hands too, but
So do I.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that much. You're able to find your way around everything, no problem.
You can work with anything you have.
There you go. I like that. Excellent. And so, what kind of guitar was your first guitar?
First guitar I got was a green/gold, depending on the lighting, sparkly Ibanez Tillman. So they made them in like the 90s, and I think they discontinued them. It's the guitar that Noodles from The Offspring plays, that shape.
Okay.
And I remember walking downstairs to my teacher's studio in his basement, and it was like hanging on the wall. And he was a terrible influence. He was a great influence, but he was a terrible influence because he would buy and sell guitars like every week. And
I know people like that.
I'd walk downstairs and there'd be like a new guitar. And I remember seeing this, and I didn't have a guitar at the time. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. And he was like, well, I'm going to sell it. If you want it, it's $200.
Oh, nice.
And I was like 9. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get this guitar. So I went home and I was like, talking to my parents. I was like, he's getting rid of this guitar. And, it's only like $200. And my parents were like, that's great. That's nice. They had just bought me like a bass, a year ago.
Yeah.
They'd,
I totally
got
understand.
me this amazing gift of getting me a bass. And now I'm like, well, I'd really like this. And so they were like, So I looked at my old bank book and I was like, oh, can't quite do that.
Yeah, well, you were 9, right?
So I worked that paper route hard.
Wow.
And did the lawn work until I could get it, because he held it for me.
Oh my god.
Until I could get it, and then I bought it, and I was so happy. I remember I bought it, and I was like, I had a cold or something. I was like so sick, and I bought it, and I took it home, and I didn't even care. I was like trying to, and it was terrible. I like couldn't play, right?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to play this thing, and then like 2 weeks later, I walked down to the basement, and there was an Ibanez Iceman hanging on the wall, which is like the guitar that Ace really used to play, right? That shape. And I was huge into Kiss at the time, right?
Yeah.
So I saw that and I was like, oh man, I gotta have that. He's like, well, I'm selling it if you want to trade it. So I was like, oh, well. So I traded my guitar for it. And then
were your parents okay with that? Were they okay?
I don't think I asked.
Yeah.
I think my mindset was I bought it.
Okay.
So I can trade it, right?
That's right. You worked your butt off for it.
So I traded it, and then that was like the start of that addiction of trading guitars. But I always regretted that I sold that guitar, or that I traded that first guitar.
Right.
And then in 2021, during COVID, I walked into Spaceman Music. I needed strings. I was getting ready to go away for a week or whatever, and I needed strings. First guitar on the rack on the wall is my first guitar. And I was like, well, that's weird. They didn't make a lot of these, and this is a pretty weird color.
Yeah.
So I pick it up and I look at it. Someone had changed the pickups. Yeah. But otherwise it looked the same. And I looked on the back. I remember I had like knocked it off once or something and like put a dent in the back of the headstock. And I looked, it was there. So I found it back. I paid like more for it. I paid the inflation price to get it back. But
whatever.
I got it back
meant
like
to be, man. That's a meant to
7
be
years
situation.
later. Yeah.
That's love at first sight or whatever. It's very rare. I shouldn't pick on Miguel, one of my guitar players, but I will. Sometimes, like in the early days, he would forget his guitar after gigs, and it was very frustrating because I'd have to go back and get it. Okay. And I was wondering, did you ever forget your guitar at a gig?
No. No.
Good job, James.
I'm a bit of a control freak at gigs.
Good job.
And with gear in general. So I'm the kind of guy who would like make fun of someone mercilessly if they left their guitar at a gig.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And so if you were to get a double neck guitar, what kind of double neck are you going to get?
That's a good question. I don't really want the 12 string.
Yeah.
I want like, I don't really care what the shape is, I guess. When it's that big, it doesn't really matter. Like, you get SG or you get a Telly, it doesn't matter. It's just a big hunk of wood.
Yeah.
But, oh man, I think I would probably get 2 6 strings, but the other one would be like set up for slide, or it would have like in a weird open tuning or something.
Yeah.
So that I could have like a regular neck and then something that's tuned really weird. So you could play like, I've actually thought about doing this because I'm the only guitar player in the band right now, right? And so I've thought about like, how could I do some cool thing where I have like another guitar that's like open tuned, right? So if I play like all the strings, it's like a chord.
Yep.
Right? So I could hit that, and that's like my rhythm chord while I do like
that's
lead
so
or top.
cool.
So that's probably what I do.
Yeah, man. Like I remember being mind blown. Like I talked about this once before, being side stage watching Crownlands, like right beside them, you know, and watching them do their thing was so impressive. When that Rickenbacker comes out and he's doing the bass and then he's doing the guitar and
then he's dancing with his feet. He's
playing the bass pedals
synth
with his feet. Oh
Crazy.
My god! And like I said, like I saw, they're incredible to watch. I remember asking my guitarist Joe what he would do, and we kind of came to the conclusion that Dan Electro was a good, an interesting choice based on price point and everything like that, because like most of them are like god awful expensive, and you kind of have to get one like custom made almost by someone who knows what they're doing, and then get like a decent price. Like I find that's normally like the best way. Like I had a friend who bought one before and it was not real. Like they went and bought it at the Rainbow, and then they brought it at the Rainbow of all places. Look at this double neck. It's sick. What Gibson? I'm like, Gibson maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah. Okay, so you talk about Kiss, but you didn't grow up during the Kiss heyday. So was there any bands during your youth that were prevalent during the day that you're really attached to now?
Oh, that's a good question. Off the top of my head, I'm struggling to think of a specific one. I mean, a lot of the music that was coming out, sort of when I was, I guess, listening to the radio and that kind of stuff, was a lot of like the super kind of glitzy, glammy pop stuff. But there was also a ton of folk stuff coming out. So like I was,
there was
sort of young and impressionable. I mean, I'm sure I'm still young and impressionable, but I was young and impressionable when like Lumineers were sort of really getting big, and Monsters and Men and those guys. So I still have a real, I didn't listen to it for a long time, but that kind of like sort of folk rock, folk pop kind of stuff. It sort of circled back in the last couple of years, and I've gotten really into it again. Yeah,
I mean, well, Mumford & Sons took it to the heights.
Yeah.
And they got to the point where they made their price to play a festival was somewhere around $150K. And that was just to get people to stop asking.
Right.
Like they, generally, they were just like, please stop. Like there's so many festivals that wanted them.
Yeah.
Because they had those hits back to back to back in those years and really built that scene up. Yeah. All the producers turned their heads real fast when that was happening. And I remember vividly because of the Big Money Shot, the Live 88 5 Big Money Shots that were going on. And I was in my 20s, in my earlier 20s, and I wanted to always do those Big Money Shots. And I wanted to do rock music. And what was popular, what was being big, folk music. So, I mean, I love it. I've got a spot for it too. I remember those days. But it's like you said, right? Like you had that influence from your family where they were kind of showing you interesting music and you agreed. You liked it. Some people, they like try and show people music, and that's where you get like the rebellion phase. Like I think in the olden days especially, you know, Det Pop used to bring out whatever kind of record it was, put it on, you know, listen to Perry Como or whoever it was, and the kid would be like, this is god awful. Like I heard rock and roll and I was dancing to it, and this makes me want to die inside, you know. So it's like you had obviously some pretty cool musical influences, showing you depth of music, depth of songwriting. There was definitely a very deep process that is still deep, can be deep, but at other times and other junctures, it has been greatly lessened. Some songs, you look at it, has like 20 songwriters on it.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, how? The song has like 6 lyrics in the chorus. Like, how in the world did they just keep setting around like remove a word, you know, to the next, like, that's what I find wild. Where back in the day, you had people like Dolly Parton knocking hit off after hit after hit, not just for her, but for other people. Same with Prince, hit after hit, and just killing it, you know. So yeah, the golden age of music, probably not in the 2000s, but there was some good stuff.
Yeah,
there was some good stuff.
I don't think there was a lot of crazy like rock stuff coming out at that point.
Was Nickelback really big when you were young?
They weren't huge.
Okay, so you were
they were, I'm sure, but
bit,
they weren't like on the radio that I remember, at
Okay.
least in like regular rotation. I'm sure that somewhere they were, but I mean, they had like a couple songs that were kind of popular and stuff. But when they came out in the 90s, I guess, and
late 90s, early 2000s kind of
so
thing.
I guess they were probably big. They had the few songs that everyone knew and kind of razzed them for.
Yeah.
And yeah.
When I was in high school, there was a lot of guys were into the Slipknot, System of a Down, Korn, that style of music. You never got into the heavy stuff, or did you ever get into metal?
I did. I mean, I got into stuff like the sort of classic kind of metal stuff, a lot of like new album type stuff, like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, that kind of stuff, through my dad. And then when I was in, I guess, end of middle school, kind of high school, I started kind of branching off and exploring some of the heavier stuff. So like Slayer, Slipknot, Avenged Sevenfold, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That was a bit too much for my dad, kind of thing. He wasn't super into that sort of thing.
The melody starts to get lost a little bit. I think that's
a lot of it.
The tempo increases just a few beats per minute too fast, and the melody comes a little bit lost. And I think it just pushes certain people off because they've always had that full present melody in a certain time signature, you know?
Well, I think it pushes me off even now. Like I remember sort of listening to it at the time and being like, oh yeah, this rules. Like this is so heavy. And now I'm not like, there's stuff that I like, you know, I like Slipknot, but I don't like all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, which is like most bands, you don't like everything.
Yep.
But I find myself with their music, I like the more melodic stuff. The stuff that they were releasing, you know, on their last album cycle or whatever that everyone hated on because they were like, this isn't the original Slipknot, this isn't gnarly enough. And I was like, well, I love this stuff. It's got a little bit more melody to it. I feel like it has a little bit more thought to it. Maybe it doesn't feel as angry, but I feel like the songwriting is a little bit classier.
It's very interesting. Artists will outgrow their art and they'll look back at it. This is me included. I've done this. And I look back at my art and went, God, that's just not great. I really need to surpass that. I need to move beyond that. And then I'll get to a show, and what will happen, I'll have people come up and they'll ask for a song from the old album.
Right.
And they want to hear the old, and they want to hear what was cool then and what you did then. And you start to realize that, oh, well, I guess some of the music made a connection with somebody. And I'm sure you're starting to have that now with the Space Between, where you're releasing songs and they're making a connection with people. And you're kind of feeling it a bit. They're telling you, maybe they sing along at the shows. Maybe you just know that people are paying attention a little bit more than they used to. And I think that's a very cool thing that happens. But yeah, so you guys have very cool shows coming up, and you've done some very cool shows. I got to be part of Rocktoberfest. Was that a lot of work to put on?
It was a lot of work to put on. It was too much work to put on.
Well, now you sound like JS talking about putting on a music festival last
It was
night.
worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I was out of town, I think, when City Center Rockout happened, because I wanted to check it out. It seemed pretty neat. It was funny because I had sort of like cooked up the whole, kind of plan for Rocktoberfest. And we kind of worked it out with the band and started figuring out like what we wanted to do with it. And then like, I don't know, a week later, I see like, oh, City Center Rockout. I'm like, oh man, that's cool. Like other people are doing it too. Like it was pretty neat to see. And they did it in a totally different way. Like he ran an outdoor festival. There was a whole bunch of extra kind of things. Like they weren't the same thing, right? Which was neat.
For sure. But both very cool. But what I enjoyed about yours was how it was at the Rainbow. And I really liked the feeling when I got in there because you guys were all working together and you were having fun. And I think that's what made me happy to see that you guys were working hard, but you were having a good time, making sure that everyone was comfortable. You're going to have a good show. And I think it showed maturity and leadership and all the good stuff you want to show people. So kudos to you guys on that. And soon you're going to open for, I believe, my friends, The Damn Truth.
Yeah. Super excited for that.
I mean, that will be a very good show and awesome to go to. I mean, if you're listening right now, definitely head out and get a ticket for that show because it's going to be excellent. And my experience with them was fantastic. And I'll tell you, they really care about their fans, like really care about them. And I know the difference because I have opened now for several cool bands. And I have seen different ways to treat your fans. And the good way to treat them is simple. At the end of the show, go be with them. Take a minute for yourself, because I have to. I mean, I used to have to go have a cigarette, for God's sakes, which is ridiculous. But anyways, thank goodness I've quit. But, just absurd. But yeah, I'd have to, oh God, I better go have a cigarette now. I'm dying of lack of oxygen. But now it's just take 2 minutes for myself and then get over to the merch booth and talk to people. And they do that. They're really good at it. And they really care about the song craft. They're like family. They kind of are family, right? They've, which is a very cool aspect of them. So you must be looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I was super excited as soon as we got the offer. And it was like an immediate yes.
Of course.
But they're great. Their music. I mean, I've known of them for a while. They've been floating around the scene for quite a while, and so I was pretty stoked at that sort of opportunity to get to do it.
So I opened for them
in
2012, and I that would have been, that was when I was in Ginger Fox, and I would have brought maybe like, I think I was very embarrassed because I only brought like 15 or 20 people out to the show, and it was at Zaphod's.
Yeah.
And nobody knew who they were. Maybe it was their first time in Ottawa.
Right.
Like legitimately. And so I just remember being so embarrassed. But years later, I got to thankfully pack a house with them. And
nice.
Have a great show with them. And they were still amazing. Even back then, they were still incredibly cool people. So what else? What other shows do you have coming up?
We have nothing that's announced yet.
But you have some music that came out in April, a single? Maybe.
I should know this. We've released two singles since the new year. So we've released the last one was like last month. Okay. End of last month, June something. Sweet. I don't remember. I should know these things, but I don't.
That's okay. I should know it too. I should, have my research book out and everything as such, but failure. Anyways, so that's pretty cool. How many songs do you have like waiting to get recorded right now?
Well, we have a couple more songs that are waiting to get released that are already recorded.
So it's a singles game for you guys.
Yeah. I don't like that.
Well, obviously, you're a very old school music fan. I can
I
tell.
like
can
being
tell.
able to have an album. And as a musician, I want to be able to say I have an album.
You do.
But it's so impractical at this point for us anyways, not for everybody.
It kind of is for a lot
I
of
think
things.
unless you have the fan base, it's like, in my opinion, based on our situation, it would be a waste of money for us. Because we just don't have enough people listening to it. You know, we would spend however much money to record, 8 to 10 songs, and we're going to put it out and not enough people are going to listen to it. And we really just need a little bit more of a following, I think, before we can release that much music. So we are recording next month. We're doing it out of town. This is our first time going out of town, and we're recording with someone new. So it'll be a big change for us. We're working with a producer for the first time. So that'll be pretty neat. It's expensive. I mean, it costs, but it's the way I look at it is it's an investment in terms of the whole point is the art, playing shows and making good music. And this is the making good music part. So we want to do it right.
I think you're ready. I mean, going to the producer, you just have to be ready to be humbled. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, it's the bottom line. There's nothing else to it. Like, if you go in there with your skill set, with a positive attitude, and you're just prepared to be humbled in some situation along the way, at least. I mean, look, my bass player doesn't get humbled there very much. I mean, he says he does, but he doesn't. And, I mean, not like me. I come out of there feeling like, God, like, I come out of there and I'm like, God, you better have some Melodyne on that over there, and God, I don't know what's gonna happen. But it's a fantastic experience. I personally love it, and I tell bands, do it, because yes, it costs money, but guess what? All my heroes did it, and they continue to. And if you look at The Damn Truth as an example, they went and recorded with Bob Rock. Nice. Bob Rock is probably the most expensive producer in the country. Yeah. And they recorded at the Warehouse, Bryan Adams' Warehouse in Vancouver. They call it that because it is a warehouse, and it's just Bryan Adams has filled it with literally every single piece of recording equipment known to man. And they've built like all these different rooms and stuff.
Is that in Toronto?
No, in Vancouver.
Right.
So, yeah, so The Damn Truth, they trekked from Toronto. There's fantastic studios, fantastic producers in Toronto to work with. But you know what? They decided it's time to invest. It's time to make a statement. And as a band, to make a statement, a good idea is to find a producer. And if you want to find your sound, which is so hilarious to think about, but it's also titillating to think about. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing is it was really fun when we met our producer, and when he kind of put the gears to us and made me realize the things I needed to do. And also I grew so much appreciation for his skill set, because over the years I'd watched many people record. I'd worked with many engineers, and I'd seen it done, but I'd never seen it done like this. And I never witnessed someone use their ear in the way that he was doing it. So yeah, I think you're going to love it, and you're going to have a great time, and Marin's going to love it too. You guys are going to bond. One more thing. Be prepared for your songs to change. Yeah. That's the hardest thing for all bands, for all artists. It doesn't matter if you're 15 or 55. It doesn't matter. When people tell you to change your artwork, it's like that teacher in school who came along and said, well, maybe you want to just change that there. And you kind of look at them like, this is my freaking drawing, teacher. Get out of here, you know? And so I always tell people the Down with the Devil story, right? Like I had lyrics and they were about history. It was like Edgar Allan Poe could never let go. Loved a girl so much, cut off his ear. Van Gogh, Mona Lisa, stared into his soul. Something like that. Like bullshit lyrics. Horrible. But I thought they were good. And you know what? That's what producers are for. He was like, it's garbage.
Yeah.
And in half an hour, I had much better lyrics. And that was the song that kind of got us our first gig with the Lazies and kind of got us on a path of getting noticed. What are your thoughts on music videos or promotion of singles?
Music videos is a tricky one. I'm so torn on it. I my whole like entry into the music scene, and from every single person that I've ever remember talking to or them talking at me, was about how important music videos are and how you have to record music videos for every single, or at least, you know, if you're releasing an album, you have to have at least like 2 or 3 music videos. And I can't believe that it's true anymore. I don't know. I mean, I think there was a time where, like in the 2010s, when all that kind of pop stuff was coming up, where music videos were king, and that was what was making a difference. I mean, I remember sitting and watching, like, you know, the Katy Perry music videos, or the, I mean, all the pop people did it best, right? Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Bieber, One Direction, all those people had, like, you know, these silly big budget videos. But even like, you know, Foo Fighters in the 90s and 2000s had all these videos, and it worked. I mean, that platform worked, partly because of, I mean, MTV, I never really watched MTV. I think that was sort of on the decline,
Yeah, it was probably
but
dead.
YouTube was on the ramp up, right? And I think that was sort of the next progression in it. But I just don't feel like it's the same way anymore. At least for me. I mean, I haven't sat down and chosen to watch music videos since the early 2000s.
So this brings me then to, what do you do? And is this because attention spans have changed? Is it because the platform simply changed? I mean, obviously, at a certain point, if you have a hit, you will have a music video. I can assure you. But the question is how do you build your fan base, and how do you get your fan base to engage? So if it's through Instagram, or if it's through TikTok, or if it's through one of these platforms where it's like 30-second videos to, you know, a minute long, or whatever it might be, I think it's the same game. You're just trying to get engagement visually into the brain.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting because when I was younger, I remember staying at one of my teacher's house in high school because I was like running a drama festival, and they were driving me into the school to run it. And so I was staying there, and I kind of witnessed that, you know, teachers are just people for the first time. And like her husband, who was a science teacher, you know, as soon as he got home, he just flung himself on the couch like a teenager, rip his tie off, get the jug of Pepsi out, or whatever it was, the chips, and on went MTV. On goes the Much Music pop-up video. So I don't know if you remember this, but on the Much Music, on this thing, it was very popular back then. They had the pop-up video, and like while the music video was going on, there'd be like little speech blurbs would pop up, and they would tell you secrets, history about the band.
Oh, yeah. I know
And
what you're
about
talking
the
about.
music video. And like, so for his gen, that was like the cutting edge.
Right.
That was like where music was. And so even though he was in his late 30s at that point or whatever, and he just taught science all day, first thing he wanted to do was go right back to that nostalgic safe place. So YouTube has become one of these nostalgic safe places, for better or worse. And I'm interested to see what you guys are going to do. I like what I've been seeing you guys doing on Instagram. What's that? What are they called? Pluto? Something about Walk to Pluto?
Oh, yeah. Short Walk to Pluto.
Yeah, they're masters of the Instagram game. And so I would definitely say those guys have figured something out there.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
But it's tricky because to me, like, I see not necessarily them, but I see a lot of bands. I mean, I don't really spend that much time on TikTok. But when I do go on, like on our band accounts, mostly just other bands, so I can kind of see what other people are doing, and same sort of deal on Instagram. Like, to me, it's, as a musician, but also as a consumer, is very uninteresting because I feel it's so kind of just the same. But there will be bands that I'll see that do things differently, that kind of are a little bit more engaging. Like Josh Ramsey from Mariana's Trench, I feel like is a good example. I don't know if you've seen any of his social media presence, but he has a pretty active TikTok page. But there's a ton of like behind the scenes recording information. He's a huge like gear and guitar junkie. Okay, so like maybe that's a bias for me. But for me, that stuff's more interesting than like seeing you, you know, playing your guitar to a recording. I mean, maybe it's just because I've had the magic a little ruined for me because I know that, you know, they're not plugged in and, you know, they're not playing anything. But it's just not as interesting for me. And I feel that it's so cookie cutter in a way, and it makes me not want to do it. And so my biggest frustration has been trying to figure out how can we get into that sort of market, because that's one thing I think we're not doing well. I mean, I think our live, you know, shows are good and they're improving, which is important. And I think our music is improving, but I feel like, you know, we still have yet to kind of carve out that niche on the internet and on social media, which is so critical, unfortunately, now.
It's very hard to do, and it's in and out thing. Maybe you figure it out for a while, and then it goes a bit cold, and you know what I mean? And the thing with bands is, I mean, you guys are a 3-piece band, so I think you won't have to worry about it too much, but I've always been in a 5-piece, and it's about getting all 5 members to row at the same time. Yeah. And it's incredibly difficult to do, and when you're doing it, nothing feels better. I mean, it's, you know, it's like playing on a sports team and winning, and you're just clicking, you're doing what you're supposed to do. And when somebody's not there, it's not fun anymore, you know what I mean? So I think you guys will find it, you will do it, and the fact that you're thinking about it differently is a good thing. The fact that you're thinking of things like cookie cutter, that's good. The cookie cutter is still there, and as artists, we really, really despise it. I do personally. Like when I went to theater school, I really despised the fact that the archetypes that would work for me would be nerd or hippie or loser, and that was pretty much the roles I could go for. Okay, wimp, bullied, whatever, right? And those are the roles you can do, and that's it. And everything else is, you know, very archetyped out. And music is kind of similar. It kind of is. I didn't want to believe it for a long time. I mean, I made albums that were mishmash of all different types of music before Taming Sorry. And I couldn't, like, force myself to figure it out. But the producer was the one who was like, you have to commit. He's like, if you don't commit, no one's going to commit back. So you've got to commit to a genre that already has a group of people that are excited, and show them what difference you bring to that genre. And so fortunately, he found the voice where I fit, I believe. I mean, I believe that, but I mean, maybe not. And I believe Marin will have the same experience with your new producer, where they're going to go on a journey of discovery, and you guys are going to, as band members, you're going to just jump with Marin, because it's so hard as the vocalist to figure out what that main character is going to be, that it's just difficult. Like, I'm not saying he's going to say, okay, it's bluegrass and you better get down with it. No, that's not what I mean. But, you know, you have to be, gosh, it sounds like I'm such a diva singer boy right now, but you got to be supportive of your singers, folks, okay? We're gentle flowers. Well, not Marin, but me, okay? I'm a gentle flower. Either way, tell me about your experience with the Scouts, because I saw that you have a long history with it.
I do. I started when I was 7 as a little Beaver Scout. With my hat and tail and vest. It's a pretty sweet uniform.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but I did it mostly all the way through. I took a year off at one point. But I did it all the way through, and then I stopped after. So there's, in Canada, there's Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, Ventures, Rovers. Okay, so those are all the levels, and they're divided by age. So I did it up until Scouts, and then when I was 14, I had the choice to go on to Ventures, which is the next level, which is, you're supposed to just do the same sort of thing, but be more independent is the idea, right? Or there was a leader who was with Cubs, which is a level below, and he had asked me if I wanted to come down and be a leader with them as a youth leader. And so that seemed pretty interesting to me. And I was kind of trying to find a little bit more something to do and be a little bit more kind of proud of in terms of doing things and have a little bit more responsibility. This is kind of midway through high school, so I'm, starting to want to do some more things. So I went down and became a leader, and I've been a leader for, I don't know, like 7 years or something like that almost. Not quite,
Cool.
but not quite. Maybe
But
like
you've seen
5
some
or
of
6.
these kids grow quite a
Yeah,
bit.
it's crazy. I just did a trip, a week-long trip to the States. And one of the youth that went with us, he's a venture now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 15, 16 kind of age. And he was one of my cubs when I was a leader, when I was that age.
That's awesome.
And it's super trippy because now he's
doing
a
what
young
you
adult.
did. Yeah.
And it's crazy. It's like having, I see them once a week, but it's like having kids in that sense where I see them develop and mature and grow as people, which is pretty neat.
So let's say, because I love survival shows. Now, I know there's nothing real about them, but because I worked in television, let me tell you folks, if you think there's anything real about reality television, just go talk to a producer. It's nothing is real. Anyway, so I love it anyways. And so tell me, if we strand you on an island, do you have a pretty good chance of surviving? Like, do you know what direction you're looking at? Or like, would you know how to make a fire? Or
the direction thing, I'm sure I could figure out pretty straightforward.
I drive and I don't know where I'm going. And then I just get on the 417. I'm like, aha, I know now which way I'm going. I know now. And then as soon as I get off, I don't know where I'm going.
Otherwise, fire, yeah, sure. Eating, that's fine.
Like on fire, like they do this stuff with these tools,
well,
and the hand tools. Would you have like some kind of a flint or something, like maybe, hopefully?
That would be nice.
Yeah, but you guys learn in Scouts, like I know you learn knots, like you learn.
Oh man,
knots.
I'm so bad at knots. I've never been good at knots.
Okay, all right.
I'm terrible. I can do like 2 or 3.
And what else do I know about it? I remember in Beavers when I was in it, there was the boxcar derby thing, like little cars that we raced,
beaver buggies.
Yeah, I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
But I wasn't good at that. I've never been good at like getting muddy or getting dirty. It's like I'm the typical ginger. That's why I really don't like the archetypes, because I fill it perfectly. I'm like, teacher, please, I don't want to pick up the bug. Oh, these ropes are burning my hand as I try and do this. But, I'm glad that it worked out for you. It was good for him. I know my dad always spoke about how much he loved it. And I had friends who I think became venturers or rovers or something. And then I also had, did you ever think about doing the tree stuff, like the tree planter stuff?
Like just tree planting?
Yeah.
No, but I think that's because I'm not into like psychedelics enough.
Aha! There you go, folks. There you go. And you know what? It's the same for me. And also, again, I would not make it. I wouldn't make it past the first day.
I think I could make it. It is, when you're into it, like for everyone who like goes tree planting out west, it is pretty intense. It's tough work to be doing that, especially, the people who are actually good at it. It is a lot of work. I think most people just do it to go do a bunch of drugs at base camp. I know a lot of people who do that.
Yeah, well, we are Canadians, we legalized the marijuana 9 years ago, and it's all fair game now, folks. Doesn't really matter. Just kidding. But seriously, gosh. Well, that's good to know that like Scouts is not like a whole mushroom party. Like now you've kind of you put Scouts in a good light now, I think, because you've made sure that they're not like those tree people. You guys are like, we know the tree people. We know what they're doing.
We're not going to do that.
We're doing something a little bit different over here. We're actually learning how to make a fire. And
it's been I've enjoyed it. It's a good way for me to give back and be very like involved in my community and still be able to do just have an outlet to be able to do that in a structured way, so I can still we do a lot of stuff for the food bank, or we do, community service projects and that kind of stuff. And so it allows me to be able to do that with them while also teaching, a group of very young youth that this is important things to be able to do as well.
Yes.
Because I feel very fortunate that I had people who taught me those sorts of values.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel it's important to try and continue that sort of mentality.
Absolutely. So where should the folks go if they want to get a taste of the space between?
Ooh, I think we're most active on our Instagram pages. Facebook is the same sort of content. So Space Between Official.
Mm-hmm.
Spotify, yeah. Space Between on Spotify. We have lots of new music that just came out, and we'll have more new music coming.
Okay. And the August show is with the Damn Truth.
Yeah, August 31st.
Okay.
Tickets are available.
Tickets. Thank you so much to James Shaheen of the Space Between. Very cool. I didn't even know that rhymed. Like,
oh yeah.
Gosh, what is wrong with me? But anyways, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun learning about you, because I've played shows with you. I've seen you, but we never got to sit down and talk like this. And I think it's fantastic that you're an old school soul and in a much younger man's body than mine. And I wish you the best of luck, and I can't wait to talk to Marin, and I know you guys are going to do great things and have a lot of fun with that producer. So thank you so much for joining us here on All Worn Out, and we'll see you next time. Bye.